Thank you for asking, though.
I understand. It can get crazy sometimes. Let me just go right to it.
Yep.
All right. So I'm doing the diving bell
Brilliant.
because
I
it's
was hoping
fascinating.
I was hoping somebody would.
Yeah, I was not expecting to enjoy reading it, but I think because I think the main lesson when we did it together in class, I read it
Mm,
differently from other people.
mm,
So I was wondering why lah. But basically, I'm just gonna try and deconstruct the text. So I've used what you mentioned on the course in the course file, basically language, form, and whatnot. But I just call it words because I also want to talk about
yep.
symbolism,
Yep. Absolutely.
metaphors, and then part two, I call it the narrator
Great.
because it's basically talking about the narrator point of view, conflict, and then I added resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And then part three, I call it the messages.
Mm,
And I'm not gonna like separate issues and the unsaid. For me, they all string together pretty well in the
mm,
memoir. Okay, but I may not use all of this,
mm,
extracts lah.
mm,
But basically, there are three symbolisms, three repetitive phrases that I think run through the entire memoir. The first is the diving bell and the butterfly.
mm,
Basically, the narrator showing himself to be trapped by this diving bell, but later on, then he managed to somewhat free his mind and then became a butterfly lah. So I'm going to explain that. I'm just putting the extracts first, then I'm going to
mm,
put the explanation later.
mm,
Number two is memory. So memories, there are a lot of extracts, but I'm just going to put two here. So there are a lot of painful aspects of his memories,
mm,
and I believe that his memories are not so much his memories. His memories are actually his past life.
mm,
So every time he thinks about it, there is always that tinge of sadness
mm,
and whatnot lah. And then the third one is communication. So communication, it's not it's mentioned pretty frequently as well, but more into his blinking, his introduction to the alphabets and whatnot. And I believe it was also posited against his experience of being voiceless. So he mentioned that a lot also. So in that second paragraph, there I put, and to complete the picture, a niche must be found for us: broken winged birds, voiceless parrots, ravens of doom lah. So I believe that being voiceless, and then he found this communication. So yeah, so that is the two situations that he often find himself with lah. So that is basically the metaphors and the symbolism. There's actually a lot more, but I just put three here lah.
mm,
And
mm.
I think the writer applied it really, really well. Yeah. And then going to the narrator characterization. So I just put here. So the question I asked regarding this is, how does the narrator sees himself? So I think in the prologue, when you read the entire thing, you can see that he was trying to tell us that he's in prison. His
Mm.
body is heavy, he's trapped, he cannot go anywhere. However, the whole book is not about his misery. I
Mm.
think pretty fast he was like, he's clinging to this sort of, okay, what can I do? What do I know? How do I manage this lah? So there's this clinging to certainty lah. So for me, the narrator utilizes a first person POV. He succeeds in telling a story of vast possibilities despite physical limitation. I feel like he never lets the reader forget that he's limited physically.
He never lets the reader forget,
Yes.
or he can't forget.
Oh
Because
yeah.
of that, he cannot let the reader. I mean, do you
Yes.
come? Do you feel like? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, no worries.
I'm foreseeing this idea of. Do you feel he is trying to forget, meaning he, back to your memories in your first part of the discussion, when you say the memories are memories of his past life, of how he remembers his life to
Mm.
be. So do you feel, because I feel it's all interconnected with the title. So the diving bell is a big metaphor that shows no matter what the circumstance he's in is this heavy diving bell that doesn't allow him to forget this is what's
Mm.
become of him, this is who he is, this is his state of mind, this is no, this is the state of being, his state of physical being. But the butterfly, on the other hand, is the metaphor for how much he wants to fly and do all and soar, and not soar because that would be a bird, but
Yeah.
butterfly, this fragile being that is both beautiful but is short lived, and so all that. So when you say how much he doesn't want the reader to forget, is it because he himself can't forget it, like because he's trapped, right? Like when you are in a trapped circumstance, you may allow your mind to wander, but at the end of the day you are still trapped in that
Yes.
circumstance.
You come back to that
So,
body.
so how, this could be a person in a situation of trauma. This could be a person who's facing life imprisonment, solitary confinement, anything. It could be somebody who is trapped in their mind, psychologically ill, post-traumatic syndrome. It could be so many different things. So that metaphor of the diving bell and the butterfly, is he trying to escape the diving bell? Is he trying to escape the circumstance by allowing his memories to kind of constantly color his present, as you say, the past, yeah? Constantly
Yeah.
coloring his present. And in so doing, he allows the reader to also get a glimpse into his past, right? So, my suggestion, Ruby, is to drop memories and communication. For section
Mhm.
one, focus only on the imageries of the diving bell and the butterfly, and
Okay.
what those two elements, what do they entail? What do
All
they
right.
entail for the story, for the narrator's perspective? Then bring up memories and communication in the unsaid, in the section called the unsaid,
All right.
because the memories and the communication are you inferring, reading between the lines and inferring elements about the story and the issues, right? And you're probing into that. But the diving bell and the butterfly, it allows you to unpack the words, as you have said it here, the language, and what that language, or the use of the figurative language, what that does to the meaning of the story. So because I feel if you brought in memories and communication, you're going to confuse your audience.
It does
What you
look.
want, you
Yeah.
want the first part to be simple, and then you go deeper into the narrative voice. For
Mm.
whose point of view is this, and how much can you trust the point of view? Then you can bring in elements of the memories there, even because
Okay.
this point of view is in his present circumstance. He is in bed, in the hospital, trapped in his body. He can't go out and experience something new. So
Mm.
that is the present. That is where he is right now. So the only thing he has going for him is all the things that he has accumulated of his past.
Yes.
Sometimes when we say to ourselves or to people around us is, your past doesn't define you. You can be whoever you want to be. Your past shouldn't define you. But in his case, that's the only thing that he has going for him. That's the only thing that defines him. Because if it's the present that defines him, the present is he is trapped in his body and he cannot live. He cannot
Yes.
function. He cannot have a relationship. He cannot go out and experience the world,
Mm.
right? But the only thing he has going for him is memories of his past. So that is in conflict of what we tell ourselves. Sometimes you are in a situation where you feel sad by all the things that's happened to you in the past, right? So you can tell yourself, look, the past doesn't define me. I can redefine who I want to be, and I can go out there and get another degree and experience a new profession and enjoy life. But he can't do that, you see? So
Yes.
his is the reverse. It's his
Mm.
past that really defines him. He used to do this, he used to do that, he had this kind of a life, and it sounds very adventurous and wonderful, but it's sad because that's all that he has going for him, right? So the story captures the essence of us, I think. So
Yes.
that metaphor of the diving bell and the butterfly, he is trapped like he is in a diving bell, but because of the agility of his mind, he is able to flutter like a butterfly, moving on and experiencing life and going from one flower to another, one memory to another, one recollection to another.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the unsaid. So when you are examining, so you don't need to break it up into the three parts like that, so much as you can talk about the unsaid as you are exploring the point of view.
Mm.
You can talk about the unsaid even as you are exploring the word level, the diving bell, but signpost it in your presentation. Signpost it, which means when you want to talk about the diving bell and the butterfly and what they signify, bring up the issues of the unsaid. Bring up the unsaid. What is the writer suggesting to us at this juncture? What is the writer suggesting to us, right? So my suggestion for you would be, the methodology would be, introduce the text, what's the story about and everything, and your methodology. You can have two approaches. The one approach is the more simplified mechanical methodology, which is you follow the structure of the assignment that I've given you.
Mm.
A more complex, sophisticated methodology would be saying that, look, I'm going to have 4 excerpts, and in each excerpt, I'm going to talk about language, i.e., word. I'm going to talk about the language. I'm going to and how that conveys a particular meaning. I'm also going to talk about the point of view, and I'm also going to talk about characterization, and I'm also going to talk about the theme. So this excerpt, what's going on in this excerpt? So talk
Mm.
about all that from one perspective, from one excerpt, and then move on to another excerpt, because that's why you don't need to read the entire memoir to get the gist of what this story is about. And that's why the entire memoir is written in a form of stories, like about 2-3 pages long. You
Yeah.
can just take one story and dissect that one story for all these components,
Okay. All right.
right? And it's allowing us. So at the end of the day, what is the theme?
Mm.
What have you explored as the theme of this story? What do you think?
I had this visualization of usually people would expect a patient to have this linear journey between, when they get sick, either they recover or either they don't. But in this story, I feel like the diving bell and the butterfly, the narrator oscillates between the two situation. So it's basically and then, so the earlier stages of coping was similar to having a diving bell. Later on, he learned to be a butterfly. So it's basically a struggle, but not a struggle that is always so miserable. So that is theme. So from the diving bell to the butterfly.
So when you say oscillate, I was thinking fluctuates.
Oh
But
yes,
oscillates is nice. But that idea, it's almost like a butterfly, because you look at a butterfly. The butterfly doesn't have a clear trajectory. The butterfly doesn't go from flower A to B to C to D in a linear fashion. The
yeah,
butterfly just flutters. There is a kind of a pattern that is happening there. Maybe there is a kind of a pattern, very much like bees also. When they're
mm,
going from one flower to another, it is not in a clear linear structured fashion, right?
mm,
So perhaps that is also another metaphor that is captured. Only make sure you can say that if you can find an excerpt or 2 excerpts that
yes,
shows this oscillation, as you say, from the present going back to the past, coming back to the present, very much like the butterfly moving from one to another without any clear, a clear structure, a clear lineage, a kind of a linear journey.
Yes.
You can only say that if you have evidence in the text. So
All right.
find excerpts. So I would say, because you have 10 minutes, I would say find maybe four excerpts. And for each excerpt, spend about 2 minutes discussing these elements,
All right.
discussing the language, the
Oh,
point of view, and characterization, the unsaid, and the themes. And at each excerpt, you are reiterating the same thing. Whatever that thing that you have chosen to say in your introduction, in your thesis, that is the thing you reiterate. So perhaps like in the diving bell and the butterfly, the writer has what captured, whatever the theme that you want to say has captured. I mean, I don't want to spoon feed you. I don't want to tell you what I
yes.
think. I don't want to tell you what I think the theme of this story is, because every writer, every reader will have their own understanding of it,
Mm.
right? But I feel this story leaves me more hopeful than hopeless. Others may read it as a hopeless scenario, but I feel more hopeful. I feel like the human spirit cannot be broken. As you read the story, you get the feeling that the human spirit, if the human if the human being wants to capture their life in a sad plight, they can.
Yeah.
It is so obvious because he is paralyzed. Except for his left eye, he's completely paralyzed. So you can write that story from a very tragic circumstance at the, he's doing very well, height of his career, he's enjoying life, and something tragic like this happened, right? So you can write this into a tragic story, but his story doesn't come across tragic though.
No, not really. No.
So what does that tell you about the human spirit? That would be one way of reading the story. But I leave you with your suggested theme, because there isn't a right or a wrong. At this stage of your life, you read the story and it tells you something. Later on, if you ever get a chance to reread this novella, you may see something else. In your 40s, in your 50s, you may see something else, right? Because you are going through something different at this particular stage. And
Yes.
it's like meeting somebody for the first time. What they offer you is as good as what you are able to receive.
Yes, that's
Because
true.
when you are more endowed in yourself, you are able to receive so much more, right? And when you are questioning, when you are still searching for your own sense of identity, you may read the text and say, oh, this is too disturbing, this doesn't leave me with any hope, this is too disturbing. But when you are more settled, you read the story in a different way, right? A young person reading the story, and somebody in their 20s and 30s, somebody in their middle age, and even later reading the story, they will read it differently. I think that's the beauty of it.
That it is. I think the story, and with any story, Doctor. I think as we've seen in class, different people take stories very differently, and
Absolutely.
I always wonder why I take it a certain way. I always wonder, okay, why, for example, Dong Dai and Xiao Cheng, because it shows differences in thinking,
Absolutely.
differences in value. So that really, like, okay, why am I like that? So there needs to be some investigation going on. Why our literary mind, obviously, it's not separate from how we think emotionally and how we think intellectually as well. So yeah,
The,
but
the,
yeah, so you mentioned something about the human spirit,
mm,
and yeah, and I saw that, but it wasn't on the forefront for me. So I didn't know why I felt like the tone was realistic. I feel like there's a certain realism to his book.
mm,
It does not romanticize
mm,
pain. He
mm.
doesn't give false hope. Uh,
Yep.
he gives the right amount of, how do I say this, a balanced approach,
Mm,
in his situation lah. Like, this is what it is.
mm,
I may not recover, I may recover. So I think that is what I find
mm.
most wonderful lah, about the memoir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to say something before I forget. This is another element of reader response. We'll talk about reader response after semester break in
Yes.
the one of the topics that we are supposed to cover. But that element of your horizon of expectation, because of the journey of life you have had compared to our other classmates, Donglai and Xiao Qing, and even Shah, every one of you, you've had a particular, very unique life journey. And that unique life journey allows you to approach the story from a very unique perspective, which means every one of us can be reading the same text, but we see something unique based on our experience and our life journey. So within reader response, there's this thing called horizon of expectation. So if you imagine drawing a line and saying, this is my horizon of expectation, and putting on that horizon of expectation all the things that have happened to you or have colored your life journey, right?
Okay.
Maybe you had a domineering parent. Maybe you experienced bullying at school. Maybe whatever. Maybe society. Maybe your career, your first
Mm.
career colored you in this way. So all that, when you put it there, now you're reading this story from that lens. You're looking through that horizon of expectation, and you're reading the story from that lens. Donglai is looking at it from her perspective. At 12, she read, because she was telling me just now, at 12, she read this particular story that her father didn't want her to read because it was very disturbing. You know,
Mm.
he bought the book and she sneaked into his room and took the book and read it at 12. And when he knew about it, he took the book away. So she only managed to read the first part. Second part, she didn't get to read. The first part about the Cultural Revolution in China, the second part,
Wow.
China was opening up. So it was only years later that she managed to get the book to read the second part. So she comes from that horizon of expectation, if you like. Her horizon of expectation is colored by those experiences. The same thing with Shah, the same thing with Xiao Qing. So, and
Yes.
myself as well. So all of us reading the story, we might tap into a particular experience in our life in order to connect to this protagonist, right?
Exactly.
Just like you are doing that, every one of us will be doing that too. So later in life, as you go through other challenges and you overcome other challenges, and the language with which you describe the way you overcome those challenges to yourself, the language, the way you articulate to yourself how you overcame certain challenges. Now you reread this story, and the first two or three paragraphs will take you a different journey.
Exactly.
I,
I
I
think so.
feel I feel all of us will go through that, you know. So I think that's the beauty of
Oh,
fiction,
story. Yes.
and more so that's the beauty of criticism, where you get to voice your thoughts in this academic fashion, in this structure, not just simply saying this is crap or this is great or this is awesome. No, but being disciplined in this way, you know, looking at the language, looking at the point of view, looking at the theme, being methodological in this manner, in this very structured manner, it forces you to articulate your thoughts in a particular way, you know.
Okay.
And I think that's the beauty of all your assignments that you have for your master's course. So if you approach it from that perspective, you get to say a lot of things.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
true.
So I would say for your assignment, this is fine, but focus on excerpts. Let the excerpt be the main focus
Mm.
for this video essay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have. I think I do think I have too many, but I'll take four, like you said, that really capture the spirit of the text.
Yeah, and
And
you may use, like, it doesn't have to be one stanza. It could be like maybe half a page, and within that half a page, you want to say certain things, but have those things clearly identified so that you spend a good 2 minutes or so on that.
mm,
You can exceed 10 minutes. The only reason I'm saying 10 minutes is because I want the video to go viral. But long videos, people tend not to watch the whole thing, and you want to make your discussion impactful enough for
mm,
people to say, "Oh, I really want to read this story."
mm.
I've
Okay.
listened to Ruby's presentation. I'm like, "Oh, I really want to read this story now." You know, but if you will make it 10, 15, 20 minutes, people might kind of lose interest.
And
So
it's too long. It's not focused, I feel.
yeah, so the challenge is for you to say what you want to say. You may even say, look, I want to have only two excerpts, and in
Mm,
these two excerpts I can say all the things. Yeah, go ahead. So it can be less than 10 minutes if you so choose, but 10 minutes I think is sufficient, because you want to
yeah.
introduce the text, you also want to conclude with your own thoughts, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. I think that really clarifies what I must say, because I feel I have a lot of things to share, but I just need it to be more refined,
Yeah,
I
you
guess.
just need to structure it, and also say that, look, I can't say all the things I want to say in this assignment. I'll save it for something else. Maybe later you want to do a comparison with another text, about a
Mm.
text that's describing this kind of paralysis, or when you're trapped in your mind.
Yes, like
uh,
another memoir. I'm sure there's a lot of other
yeah,
memoirs, and
yeah,
yeah, it will be a fascinating area to
yeah.
study. Okay, I'm gonna start presenting. So
Okay,
when do we submit the video, Doctor, if I may ask?
okay, let me stop the recording first.